Okay, Emily. So I just want to thank you so much for meeting me again. And I know we've had a couple sessions before, and you kind of know the lowdown about the life coaching thing. But just to reiterate a little bit, I just want you to make yourself at home, get completely relaxed. Today, I wanted to try a little bit of aromatherapy. So I'm going to have you pick out an oil that you like the best, and I just got my cool diffuser, so we can have that going on in the session if you wish, if you think that's something you'd like.
Yeah, I'd love that.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay, so I will have you look at a few of the oils, and you can just pick out which flavor you like. And if you have any questions or want to know anything about them, just let me know. So while you're looking at those, I'll just kind of reiterate the coaching contract. And you also have been through this, so you know what to expect. But it's just completely confidential as far as I'm concerned. I know you decided to do the recording this time for my class. I really appreciate that. So it will be exposed to my professor and a couple of my fellow classmates. But I want to offer you some time at the end when we're not recording, if there's anything you want to add to the session, because we have a pretty cool tool to work with. So if there's anything you wanted to add to it or say or ask at the end of the session that you didn't necessarily want to say recording, feel free to do that. We'll have time to do that. But during the session, and that will be completely confidential, of course, but all of my classmates are under the same understanding, and it'll just be used for educational purposes and to help me do better. So that's how that's going to work with the recording session. So I thank you again for doing that. I know it's kind of, invasive doing the recording, but it can be cool too to listen back on and see everything you said besides what we write down. So unless there's anything pressing in your life right now that you wanted to address specifically, which we can do as well as the tool or instead of, I have the tool called the Four Agreements. And you may have heard I told you a little bit about this before, and to kind of look into what it was so you kind of know about it. So is that a tool that you're interested in using today, or do you have something else in your life going on you wanted to focus on?
No, I want to use that one.
Okay, cool. Did you have a chance to look at it a little bit?
Yeah, I did. I read about it a little
Yeah, it's a really cool concept, and then I'll go over a little bit about it before we jump right into it. They're pretty descriptive agreements, but just to get a little bit more into it and get into the zone, I'll read you some cool quotes and stuff from the book. That'll help tie in the idea. So you got your oil.
Breathe.
Yeah, this one's awesome. This is Breathe from doTERRA. It's a blend, and I have what's exactly in it written down, but it's just really nice. Definitely really pepperminty. So I'm going to go put a couple drops of this in the diffuser, and then I want you to just get really relaxed and comfortable. Feel out the safe zone, take some deep breaths, and this aromatherapy will really help with that, and it'll be good to take deep breaths throughout the session because it's just a really cleansing oil and it's going to be really relaxing for you. So just get really centered. Okay, so you should be smelling that in a little bit. How are you feeling? Are you feeling relaxed and in the moment? Is there anything that you feel like you need to be more relaxed right now, or anything you need to say, or any kind of body movements you need to do?
I'm actually feeling really relaxed.
Okay, great. And you're comfortable?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Super comfortable.
Perfect. Okay, so I just want to do a really light meditation, just kind of a guided meditation with you, just to help you get really centered and focused on yourself. And I just want you to remember that this session is completely about you. So if any time you want to add something, take something away, change anything, change the direction of the session, that's all about you. Feel free to do so. I'm just here to help you through your own personal epiphanies that you may or may not have. So this is, not like therapy. It's more like a guiding hand in helping you dig within yourself for the answers that you already have about your life, which and I know we both know you have. And it's just kind of about discovering those intuitions that you know you have, but you just may not be asking yourself the right questions to get there, or may have some kind of block you need to work through. So it's just going to be a really mild kind of guide. If you want me to be more forceful with anything, especially with keeping up with your commitments that you may or may not make during the session, let me know. I can be more of like a drill sergeant. Some people need a little bit more motivation, a little bit more, authoritative, hassling, for lack of a better word, but, just helping you stay on track and, mostly as a reminder. But some people just need a mild guidance, so it just depends where you're at with that. So just do a little guided meditation before we get into it. And just close your eyes and take some deep breaths. Feel the tension fading out of your shoulders and let them relax. When you breathe out again, feel the tension leaving your neck. As you keep breathing, try and imagine you're in a really serene place, maybe next to some body of water. And then start to count down with your breath, starting at 20. Let any incoming thoughts float away with the water. Just focus on your breath. And just let me know whenever you feel centered and ready to begin. How are you feeling? Isn't that nice?
Very nice.
Are you getting the oil yet? I can smell it over here now.
It smells good.
It's a really great one. That was a really good pick. That's probably my favorite one.
Yeah, it's waking me up.
Okay. So yeah, stretch out, do anything you need to do. This is just going to be a fun, casual session. Have fun with it. Be open and honest. The more open and honest you are, the more you're going to get out of it. And a little bit of what to expect. You know mildly what to we're using. But on top of that, it's going to maybe take, it's been about 10 minutes so far. It's going to maybe take another 20, 30 minutes, if that's okay with you, whatever amount of time you have to get through it. You know, we can make it as small or big as you want to. So we'll kind of see where it trickles into, but we'll start with this basic tool as a good guide to get started with. So I designed it just a little bit like the balance wheel that you've already done, where we're rating different categories of, when we rate the categories of your life 1 through 10. And so this too, I want it to be, and we're going to read a little bit about the definitions of the 4 agreements and get into that a little bit. But also I want you to not be so distracted by that and really feel where these are showing up in your life and what they mean to you personally. So always do your best. So that's kind of general, and even their descriptions on that is pretty general in what you would think. But also think about how that relates to your life specifically. And also we have being impeccable with your word, which is a lot about honesty. So think about that, how that's kind of playing a role in your life, how that's showing up in your life. Don't take anything personally, and being thick-skinned. So, you know, think about how much you struggle with that. Where is that showing up in your life? Where would you want that to be ideally? Things like that. So just get this started going in your head so you have them while I'm reading the descriptions. And then the last one, don't make assumptions. So that can be really powerful part in people's lives, you know, negatively, you know, depending on what assumptions they're making, how much they struggle with that. So kind of think about how that's showing up in your life. And then I'm just going to give you a little bit of background information about the 4 agreements. So it's a book, and really praised, really popular book, a really nice breakdown of some simple yet really powerful aspects of your life. So it's a really cool, I think, as a tool to use in the life coaching sessions, because I've heard about it as a book for a long time, and when I saw it suggested as one of our life coaching tools, I was really excited to use it because I feel like it would be a really great tool, and I thought it would be really great for you too, because we've done the balance wheel, which is a more general, broad balance wheel, but this one kind of gets into more specific kind of, you know, internally freeing yourself, and not maybe specifically focusing on one aspect of your life, but maybe one aspect of your personality even. So, so being impeccable with your word, it's about speaking with integrity, saying only what you mean. You know, these are really simple statements, but really feel the power behind just the simple words, you know, saying what you mean. Easy to say, but imagine if everyone always said what they mean, you know, how different would the world be? I mean, that's some powerful stuff. So also avoiding using the word to speak against yourself or to gossip about others. Use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love. So a really basic outline, but really powerful information. The next one is don't take anything personally. Nothing others do is because of you. What others say and do is a projection of their own reality, their own dream. And when you are immune to the opinions and actions of others, you will not be the victim of needless suffering. So, I mean, it makes a whole lot of sense, yet it's something that's so hard to apply in your life. You know, can't you kind of feel that?
Yeah, it's almost impossible.
So these are just really powerful, you know, philosophies. You know, it's always the simple ones, but they make so much sense. It's just the actual execution of it, which makes it so darn hard. So next we have don't make assumptions, and that's finding the courage to ask questions and to express what you really want. Communicate with others as clearly as you can to avoid misunderstandings, sadness, and drama. With just this one agreement, you can completely transform your life. And that's also true with all of them. Even, you know, because with one session, even focusing on one of these at a time is going to make a huge difference. And I think it would be better to focus on one at a time to really make sure you master it and don't get overwhelmed with focusing on too many things. So, I mean, any of these, depending on where you are in your life right now and how these resonate with you, you can pick out one to even focus on maybe. So we'll see how the session goes. And then we have always do your best, and that is about your best is going to be changing from moment to moment, realizing that, understanding that, and also kind of probably about not beating yourself up too much. It will be different when you are healthy as opposed to sick under any circumstances. Simply doing your best, and you will avoid judgment, self-abuse, and regret. So that's pretty powerful. And then just a little bit more of an overview. I'm going to read you a few quotes from the book. And these are just some really cool little tidbits that'll kind of add to your understanding and your feel for these agreements. Okay, so this one is, I will no longer allow anyone to manipulate my mind and control my life in the name of love. Another one is, but it is not what I am saying that is hurting you. It is that you have wounds that I touch by what I have said. You are hurting yourself, and there is no way I can take this personally. Find the courage to ask questions and to express what you really want. Communicate with others as clearly as you can to avoid misunderstandings, sadness, and drama. You can have many great ideas in your head, but what makes the difference is the action. Without action upon an idea, there will be no manifestation, no results, and no reward. It is when we lose control that we repress the emotions, not when we are in control. What you will see is love coming out of the trees, love coming out of the sky, love coming out of the light. You will perceive love from everything around you. This is the state of bliss. So that's kind of like the ultimate outcome after you kind of mastered these agreements in your life. So from those quotes, what kind of feeling did you get from those quotes, like in your body, in your mind? How did they make you feel?
Almost kind of sad, because it's like, I wish that I could live like that, just like, obviously, yeah, it's something you have to work towards, but I don't know, it's also beautiful, like, that it's just awesome. I mean, it makes me happy and excited that that's something you can reach towards.
Definitely.
But, yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from, because it almost is sad, like he's saying about avoiding self-regret and this and that, because maybe you're not always doing your best, and that is one of the goals to work towards. And then people tend to beat themselves up and live in the past and live in the regret and feel that sadness continuously, when you could take that sadness and regret and manifest it into something amazing. You can manifest it into motivation. You can manifest it into not wanting to waste any more time, manifest it into seeking knowledge like you're doing now just by being here and learning about this. So you're definitely taking some powerful steps. Okay, so we have our general background, and I know I gave you a couple websites to look at as well. So let's start rating where you're at with some of these in your life and kind of how they're showing up in your life as well. So I will give you this chart, and you can kind of just mark on 1 to 10. I have the half point mark, so you can just kind of estimate and just kind of mark and scribble in where you're at. So you can start with whichever one screams out to you first.
So that's 1, that's 10.
10 is on the outside, 1 is on the inside. So you can rate it. So that would be 5, 10.
Wait, which one goes for always do your best?
You can pick whichever one you want. Which one would you like to do first?
I'm confused with which line goes to what.
So like this would be rating at 5.
So 1's the worst, right?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, 1 would be where you need the most improvement, or you're feeling you're not doing really well with this agreement in your life at all.
Okay.
10 would be perfection, where you ideally see yourself mastering this agreement in your life.
Dang. I honestly feel like I need to put like 1 for all of them.
Okay, well, let's go through them individually. So you need to put one for doing your best. Yep, sure, that's just fine.
Okay, so one for always doing your best.
So one for always doing your best, that seems kind of low. Are you willing to talk about kind of what you think always doing your best is and why you think you're doing a 1 out of 10?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think definitely in the past couple years I have improved, but I was like at a super, super low point. So I've definitely gotten better, but I think literally every day, every action I take, I can honestly say I don't think it's my best. I kind of slack at like everything I do.
Mm-hmm.
Every little thing. I mean, it's sad, but like it's true. I've always been really lazy, and again, I have gotten better, but it's to say like I must have been like in the negatives, years ago, and so, yeah, I don't know. I feel like I don't do anywhere near my best, really, any out of the day. The only maybe the one thing is working out, like the physical working out. I do think I do my all best, but although everything else I do, I don't think I do.
Well, that's a really powerful statement. I just want to first off commend you on your honesty. A lot of people can't be that honest, and that's really amazing. And being honest with yourself is the first step, and that's already, I think just saying this out loud is probably kind of maybe the first time you've really heard it. Maybe you've kind of felt it from time to time, but just as a broad fact, saying it out loud is probably pretty powerful. How do you feel about saying that?
Yeah, it is powerful. It's intense. It's weird to hear, but it is the truth. And
you can feel that's the truth.
I constantly think it, but you're right. I don't say that to anybody. This never really comes up. It's not. But I mean, yeah, it is really how I feel.
And do you get down on that a lot? Is it something you think about a lot?
I mean, yeah, constantly. Because in my head, it's like I want, all of these steps have that outcome of what you said was bliss, and it's like I strive for that. I want that to be where I end up, but I'm not taking the action. So I'm always aware that I'm not. So.
And because I know you've been working a lot on yourself and everything, and we had our other session and we've kind of talked about the outcomes, but they kind of tend to slip and weave up and down.
Yeah.
Do you feel like maybe it is because you're focusing on the whole too much and improving everything at once? Do you feel like maybe dissecting it and doing one thing at a time would be better?
I think so.
Okay, and that's interesting. So, always doing your best. So what would it look like if you always did your best? Give me some examples of what it would look like you doing your best in your life. What would be doing your best in circumstances that you're not necessarily doing your best right now?
I would think just treating everyone around me better. Secondly, probably sticking with a job and doing it correctly, so I don't get fired or I don't end up quitting or getting frustrated. Being able to save up money and not, just be always feeling the need to just spend it to get comfort out of it, to feel like, wow, I have like these objects and that makes me feel better. I think that's like one of the worst things for me. I mean, I guess just to go, this is kind of just treating everyone right. This goes back to that, but just specifically just my dad and my boyfriend and just, all the closest people to me, that like I only have like these 4 close people that I like talk and see every single day, and I feel like I don't treat them the way they should be, because they're the only ones truly there for me and the ones that will ever be there for me throughout, everything I've experienced so far. So that's probably just the biggest, just in that aspect. Another thing is eating regularly, like putting the right things into my body, drinking more water, just consuming things the right way and the right amounts. And I would just say just everything. I just don't push myself to the max. Just with literally every little thing, just waking up, just, you know, getting in the shower. I'm lazy. I just slack at every little thing. I'd say that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that was an amazing overview, and I just want to thank you for allowing me into that place and being so honest, because that was just really amazing right there. And I can tell, it's a difference when people just don't care, and I can tell you care tremendously, and that's what I'm hearing from you. So also what I was hearing specifically is specific goals kind of like outlined. So it was holding the job and doing better at your job. And that's a huge realization to have, because, I mean, you go through these jobs in your life and you think, it's just a building block, or it's not what I want to do, it's not where I want to be, it's not, worthy of my time. But you really have to look at, it's an amazing perspective to have when each situation you're in and circumstance, if you look at it as a learning lesson. There's a saying that if you're intrigued by any one thing in life and love the science of it, or love learning about it, or find a passion about anything, you'll never be bored a day in your life. And they say, there's so many phrases, there's no boring people, or there's no boring things, just boring people. And it's just all, it kind of comes down to this just sense of loving life in every situation, every relationship you're in, whether good or bad, every job you're in. There's just so much to learn from it, and just kind of realizing that is amazing and can really put a whole new twist on life, even situations that aren't necessarily seemingly beneficial, but you can kind of, if you're that strong of a person and want to change your life that much, there's definitely techniques you can use to kind of utilize those situations. Also, you can really, just, maybe a challenge would be in your next job, giving 100% for, an X amount of time, just as an experiment, and see what reactions you get out of it. See how people treat you differently. See how the environment can change. You can literally, it's like a lucid dream. You can literally control your environments by, not only the energy you're giving out kind of thing, but how that expresses through your physical actions, how much you're helping out what you're doing. And you might really see a huge difference in the actual environment that's bringing you down. By you changing, it might actually bring it to a higher stated environment, a higher vibrational, cleaner, just emotionally cleaner, just a healthier, happier environment. So that's one thing to stay mindful of. Also, the saving money aspect, and that's awesome to bring up and admit to. That's something a lot of people struggle with, obviously. And it's just kind of an addiction thing in this society. You have the money, it's like, what am I going to do with a pile of paper? And you just think, you want all these physical things that, in actuality, when you think of them, are pretty much garbage most of the time, and think about how much you go through it. One trick that I've always done to save money that I love is I break down when I'm working how much I'm making per hour. And then every time I buy an item, I literally think about it in the sense of, would I do 2 hours of work for this, say, item? And most of the time when you're shopping, you don't think about that. You work for a couple weeks, you get one paycheck, and then you're just buying all these expensive things right off the bat, getting that immediate gratification. And then eventually you're going to get bored with that product, or a better one's going to come out, or it's going to get broken or lost, and then you're going to start feeling regret and self-doubt and those feelings. But when I buy things that I literally translate into the amount of work I have to do to get that item, it made my shopping habits much more different and much more meaningful, and really thinking about where my money goes as well. Also, eating better, that's a huge realization to have in your eating habits. Just generally taking care of yourself and having the motivation to do that. You want to work on that and pushing yourself in general. But out of all those, it sounded like you did a really great job in feeling yourself out and knowing that the very pivotal, most fundamental thing you want to work on in this category is treating people better. That definitely seemed like the strongest branch of this agreement. So how do you feel about that overview? How do you feel about hearing that back? Anything else you want to add, or any realizations you may have had?
No, it was pretty spot on. It's like exactly how I feel about it.
Yeah, definitely. So let's move on to another category for a little bit. So whichever one you feel like you want to rate next and talk a little bit about, if you wish, go ahead and do that.
Let's do the don't take anything personally. I'd probably rate that one a 5.
Okay, so that's a little bit higher score. And why did you rate don't take anything personally out of 5? And where is that showing up in your life? What does that mean to you?
Well, I would say a 5 just because, I mean, all the things I went through as a child, just with family and whatnot, I just feel like when I was put into like the world as my own, I kind of just naturally had this shield up to like not let people really hurt me, you know. But I mean, being human, it's impossible to not, you know, like it's you like everyone, especially in this society, even not even just being human, it's this society. There's just so much going on and so much to compete about that, and so much, everyone is just always talking crap about everybody, you feel, you know. So it's like 50% of the time I feel like I do take things personally, and that sucks. I mean, because wait, let me look at this again. What is it? Okay, yeah, I was about to confuse the two with the assumptions, but forgot my thought.
So, no, you're fine. So taking things personally, so that's kind of about being thick-skinned and getting really down on yourself by environmental influences, and especially personal influences by friends or bosses or parents. You know, when any of their actions or words offend you and penetrate you and change your thought process, change your energy wave, change how you're feeling, thinking about yourself or the world, just taking things to heart that really aren't within your bubble. That's, you know, you kind of have to think about them being in their, creating their own world and you're creating your own world. And yeah, they overlap and some things are going to trickle into your bubble, but it's about, you know, and it's, everyone does it. You're absolutely right. It's an environmental thing. It's how a lot of people are raised. It's all you know. You take things personally, you know, things offend you. It's just kind of a human thing, it seems to be. And it's kind of really against the stream to try and eliminate that. But the benefits are just so immense. So taking things personally, can you think of any instances when you really took things personally and it caused maybe a lot of trouble unnecessarily, when you could have not taken it personally and just seen it as that's where someone else is in their life, and if that's how they feel or want to say things or think things, that's on them and you could be separate? So what instances have you not realized that and let it trickle in and let it hit you down personally when you should have just realized that you shouldn't?
I would probably, the biggest thing that's happened in my life like that was probably my mom.
Okay.
Just everything she did, and I for years kind of blamed myself and took it personally, took it upon me, because for a while there, for a couple years, it was like I was raising her, and so when I couldn't fix her mistakes, I blamed myself, and and it made me suffer in school, you know, just so many little things. I just it changed my life a lot, putting her before me and just taking that to heart. Like everything she was doing wrong, I thought there was something that I could do to change it, and I thought it was all up to me. Yeah, not that I completely blamed myself, but I definitely took it to heart when anything bad happened with her, and it made me feel bad about myself for like almost letting that happen and not being able to stop it, even though I tried with all my might. But it's still, it probably had the biggest toll on me, like emotionally and just like with my actions, like just all around.
Yeah, that's completely huge, and that's an even deeper situation when it's a parent. You know, you almost feel this, you know, universal draw to them. You know, you're magnetized to them. You're, you know, they're your creators on this earth, so it's, and it's just the society as well, and the family aspect. You don't want to give up on a loved one, especially a parent. And I mean, it's completely understandable, and I'm sure it happens all the time. And I can imagine, how do you cut yourself off from taking that personally? They're your parent.
Right.
And that's an unbelievable thing to go through. And you could definitely turn that into a lot of positives and end up helping people. But especially just focusing on yourself right now, if there's any emotional ties or anything that's still draining you on a cellular level, any, thoughts that are draining you in this situation, or any, because it really is draining you and it's beating you down, even if you don't think about it every day or all day, it's still in the back of your head and it's still draining you on an emotional level, on a cellular level, literally, it's like a physical thing, and it can even affect your health. And that ties into a lot of taking things personally. It can really affect people's mental states and really affect their health, like any of these agreements. It's just a win on so many levels when you break through these and have these realizations and work through them, and getting to that point of bliss when you just don't have any of that mental drainage, and you're not getting drawn down by anyone else in your life, and it's all about you, your world, and what you're creating, and not being penetrated by any of those other things. And it being a mother, yeah, that's really extremely hard. I couldn't think of a harder person to break off from and not be penetrated by. But that's definitely an amazing realization. So anything else that is kind of being brought up by the agreement of taking things personally? Anything in your life that you need to work on in another aspect besides your relationship with your mother that you think would benefit from focus of not taking things personally? Jobs, friendships?
I would say, the other next biggest thing is with jobs, because I find that with all of my past managers I've had, they've been kind of just angry with the life they have and created for themselves, and so they treated me awful, and I've yet to really have a good manager relationship. It's ended pretty horribly, and I've always, every outcome, taken it completely to heart. And just now reflecting and looking back at it, it's like, it's insane for me to think that, because it was literally all of them, all their own life problems, everything, all on their own. I had nothing to do with anything, but every single job, literally every job I've had, every manager, there's been something that has broken me down and made me possibly even quit the job or just not even show up. Like it took it to that level where I couldn't even be strong enough to just like go in there and do the job and get out. So that's probably the next one. And then, I mean, with friendships, I've definitely cut out a lot of friendships in the past couple years after like getting out of high school and whatnot, because I just started to realize a lot of the people don't really care about anyone but themselves. So I mean, the only person I really surround myself by is Karina, who I've known since I was 8. It's my best friend. And so I don't know, I'd say with friendships, I'm doing really well, because I surrounded myself with the people I want to be surrounded by. And and if I'm in an instance, like if I'm driving Karina to a party and I'm around people I don't really like to be by, and they're, doing things or saying things I don't like and would make me feel bad, that doesn't even exist for me anymore, because I don't even consider them, like, they're just not friends to me. I just don't really care what they have to say at all. So I think with friendships, I'm doing really well. And even when Karina says things, Karina, of course, we get in fights and she gets mad at me or whatever, but even with her, it's like we're on the level of she's my sister, so I don't take anything she says personally at all. I know it's just out of frustration or something she's going through. So I think that's probably one of my strong suits.
Yeah, that's definitely amazing, and it sounds like you've totally been working on, and I know we talked about this before, surrounding yourself with the right people and in the right environments to start kind of supporting you on things that you want to start working on with yourself. And that's definitely, not a rumor. That's such a true thing, surrounding yourself with people that will influence you. It's such a real thing, and it really will affect you in every decision you make, every place you'll end up, everything like that. So that's a huge step that you've made and have been working on. I'm really proud of you for that. That's just amazing. It's really hard. That can be one of the hardest things for people, eliminating people from their life that aren't really serving them or bettering them, or even, you know, affecting them negatively. And the jobs and bosses thing, that was an amazing realization too. And you know, how powerful is that, just knowing that? And that's a really obvious situation when you apparently could just tell that it was their own life and they were taking it out on you, but you just couldn't help by being offended, because it's hard not to. Someone's saying horrible things to you in a certain tone, and how do you not be upsetted by it? You know, there's things that we can talk about working on with that, but that's one of the hardest instances to be in, because, you know, it's hard not to be affected by that and take it personally. And that can be a really common situation in a boss-employee relationship. So that's definitely something to think about, coaching around further and working out methods to deal with that, and how to keep yourself more thick-skinned so that you can stay positive in jobs and just let them live in their own negativity if that's what they're going to do, and just not taking it personally. But we can go deeper into those if we feel. So now let's rate one of the next ones and see how that's showing up in your life.
So I'm gonna do don't make assumptions, and you know, I can only really think of one specific thing for that.
Sure.
So I'm gonna rate it about a 6, because I think, like, with that one person and what it is, it's pretty bad, but I mean, I feel like that's really the main one thing I make assumptions with. So yeah, I'm gonna say 6.
And did you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so making assumptions, like, it comes to mind immediately, because I do it so often, and it's a problem and it's bad, is with my boyfriend Tanner. You know, he lives in California and I live in Arizona, so there's a long distance, and then he's in a band, so he has several shows a week, and, you know, band practices, and he has to practice himself alone, and there's just a lot of time that we're not talking or communicating, and I tend to, like, a lot of the time just assume anything but what he's doing. Literally anything. Like, you're with some girl, you're like, you're drinking, like, just anything. Just, I don't know. It's stupid and it's dumb, and I'm completely aware while I'm doing it that I'm being an idiot, but I still just do it. I don't know why. I don't get any satisfaction. It just causes a fight, and it's dumb. And I would say, actually, because, like, we got into like one huge fight that gave us both a lot of realization. So I'd say past week it has been a little bit better. Obviously, I've just been trying to calm myself down, but overall, like, I still have that urge to make the assumptions. Like, even if I'm not saying it out loud, in my head, just constantly, I'm always thinking, like, what if, well, what? And it's dumb, because there's, like, none of that is even close to, like, existing. It's, like, so far stretched that it's ridiculous for me to have those thoughts at all. But
totally,
I do.
I completely hear you on that. And that is a perfect example of when this agreement would be most powerful and most detrimental to a relationship or whatever specific circumstance. But the long distance relationship is a very big one with this, and not making assumptions. You know, that literally can be, and it's so sad. Okay, so it literally can be the ruin and demise of a relationship, first of all. And it's so sad that it can be and just invisible seed. It doesn't even exist.
Right.
And you're literally creating this new seed of this kind of evil plant weed, like, that's going to take over this relationship. So, and it's not even like I'm saying point blank, don't do it, problems fixed. I totally understand that it is something that, you know, you seriously have to work on. It goes against all your being, because, you know, hormonal jealous beast is just going crazy and wants to just go ham on someone.
Seriously.
So then there's two aspects, and it sounds like you're definitely working on the first one. So let's divide the two aspects into not physically saying anything to him, being calm and nice,
Right.
not assuming anything. So that's the first step you're working on, which is great. That's going to, you know, eliminate so many fights. And, you know, I'm sure when you say it and when you do it, how do you feel about that?
I feel horrible. I feel
you feel
stupid.
horrible,
I feel,
embarrassed
yeah,
even.
It's embarrassing.
You know, it's a ridiculous thing, and I've been there, and I totally hear you. So there's the one thing, avoiding saying it. So that's going to avoid the embarrassment. It's going to avoid the needless fighting to some degree, but I'll get into that later. And then it's going to avoid, you know, little surfacial things. But then there's the other aspect, besides just avoiding saying it, which is really deep and obviously going to be really hard in the circumstance, stopping thinking it, stopping feeling it. So that's a whole next level that you may not be at yet because you're just stopping saying it right now.
Yeah.
And you probably just want to focus on that first. So stopping thinking it, that's also going to help prevent the fighting and everything that stopping saying is going to be, because you're still going to have those deep-seated emotions when you're thinking this all the time that are going to build up and explode in some other way. Do you resonate with that?
Right, like if we were to get in another fight and then I have all that built up, and so then I'm just like, well, you've been doing this and that, and then I just come out with all this craziness that I just made up all on my own.
Exactly. Totally fabricated. And it's almost to the point where, you know, it can even be an opposite intention. You know, you could be saying these things because you want to keep someone you love close to you, but it could drive them away. You know, that's just like record, you know, broken record story. That's, you know, happens in so many situations. And it's like, it's just like these 4 agreements. It's so frustrating because it's so simple, it's so truthful, it's so right in front of your face, yet you can't grab it. You know, it's always like, you know, it's just like, gosh, why were we just cursed with these brains and bodies? But, you know, overcoming these things, which is completely possible, and I think you know, and you can feel within yourself that you are capable, and you're at a really great pivotal age. You're really young. You can make some really important decisions in the next few years that are really going to scape the path that you're going to go down, how your relationships are going to conduct. You know, everything in your future will really be changed by just your simple thinking processes, just kind of adopting these agreements and giving yourself a little checkup like we're doing now once a week or just a little bit at night, just seeing where you stand with all of these. Anyways, let's do this last one here, and then we'll do.
Okay, impeccable with my word. I'm gonna go all the way to 1, but probably 2.
Okay.
That's where we're at with that one.
Good, you're being honest. That's awesome. So why would you rate impeccable with your word out of 2?
Well, I think, well, first off, with that one, one of my just overall biggest problems is saying things that I don't mean all the time, just with anything, even when I'm happy, like even positive, saying what I, you know, like I just but yeah, the worst of it is obviously I'm mean. I'm really mean, and that's just been a thing even since I was little. Like when I was a toddler, I was just always crying. Me and Karina, we met each other by me punching her. Like I was just like a bully always, you know, and I've always had this just like anger inside of me. And like I said, with everything in the past couple of years, I've improved so much, but like, wow, it is just a huge problem. The things I say, and not even completely out loud with my voice, but over text message, like, again, to go back with Tanner, just and the assumptions, like, I am just sometimes, like, straight up evil with my words, and it's horrible, and with text messages, it makes it even worse, because you can go back and read everything, and you can see what you said, and then think about what you were thinking, and you can, like, remember how angry you were in that moment, and you're just like, what the heck, like, really? Like, those words really just come out just because you're so mad in that moment, and I just get so angry at myself because it's just like, why couldn't you just think all of that, or just write it down to yourself? Like, why don't share that a lot? Like, it's obviously like everyone's gonna have anger, everyone's gonna have like those horrible thoughts about somebody or something, but like to just say it out loud is a whole other level, and to say it like out loud to like this specific person is just like really bad, and that's what I do. I'm like horrible at that. Like I'm really, really, really bad at that. And then another aspect also is with my dad, I almost hold back too much. Like I don't say enough to him with my words. I don't like use my words correctly, and So I don't know. That is just I don't even know. It's a whole mess.
Okay, so that's definitely an area that needs to be worked on with your dad, and speaking impeccably. That's a big link there. Okay, well, again, just amazing being so honest and open. So that's a pretty powerful realization, especially how you mentioned, you know, when you can actually see text you've read when you were in a livid state,
right.
Being in a little bit of a calmed down state later on and realizing this and seeing this, and it's like, you know, you call yourself evil, a bully, so it's like you're really from the outside looking in, like that isn't me or isn't who I want to be, right. And I am baffling myself with how evil I am being, because that's a really powerful word. So that's an amazing realization, and it totally sounds like you're aware of this problem you have, which is a step, and you know you want to work on it and get better, and you said you already are getting better. So what are the things that have kind of helped you get better at this? What are some things that have worked for you? Have you tried anything, just being mindful about it, or have you tried anything else?
Well, I'd say the biggest thing for me is actually practicing yoga when I wake up. Mm-hmm. And then another thing is, having just that constant voice in my head, because I mean, I try my best to stay as calm as possible throughout the day, because, like I said, I was literally born and angry. I just cried my whole childhood, so I just always had this anger, and so, and then just a day came where I was like, I don't want this anymore. I don't want to be angry, but I just have all of these horrible habits that I didn't really know what to do. But the one thing is I try to keep that constant voice just in my head, just stay calm, like life is good, like literally it's just as simple as that, like life is good. So I don't know, that's what I've done the past couple years, and it's saved me from a lot of situations, but I mean sometimes that voice just doesn't even exist. My anger just destroys
way louder.
Yeah, it doesn't matter anymore. But
I hear you.
Yeah, but I mean I have created that voice, and it is there a lot of the time, so I try my best to, you know, keep that just like always thinking that, but definitely disappears sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely something to think about, you know, and totally a step, having that voice in your head and trying to nurture it. And I'm sure at some points it's given more attention than others, and sometimes it slips under the rug. So maybe working on something that'll really help you be mindful of that specific aspect of your life. Some kind of totem or some kind of reminder that you see often on a day-to-day basis that'll kind of bring you back, remind you to center yourself, and remind you of what you know, that life is good and there's no reason for you to be overreacting or taking things personally or lying or this or anything like that, or feeling that anger. That's also something to think about. So let's just break it down a little bit more and go through these topics and think about what would your life look like if this area was at a 10. And real quick, I'm just going to do a time check. We're kind of running long, but if you have time, we'll just complete this last kind of part. Or if you're in a hurry, just let me know how much time range you have left.
All right, I'm good on time.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I think it's going really good. I think you're going to get a lot out of it. So we'll do this last part then. So I'm going to go through what you've just rated, all the agreements, and then really just take another deep breath. Get yourself centered and think about, what would your life look like? What would it feel like? Who would you be? You know, how would you show up in the world if this agreement in your life was completely mastered? If you just were in charge of yourself, in charge of your mind, in charge of your emotions, what would it look like to always do your best is what we're starting with. What benefits would you feel? How much more amazing would your life be because of that? What would it look like? What would you be doing?
First, I think I would just physically be feeling a lot better. Just overall, just breathing would be easier, you know, like walking up and down the stairs. And then I just think everything would just be brighter. I would just be kind of like just more comfortable in every situation and confident, and
No, it's fine. It's fine that you're feeling some emotion. This is a really deep thing. And you can just take some time to breathe a little bit. That's fine. Just take some deep breaths.
Um,
And then if you're open to, I'm just going to take a little bit of lavender oil.
Okay.
And put it on your temples, and then you can take some deep breaths like that. It's completely fine to feel these emotions. And it's good for you because, I mean, you're making some really powerful connections with these topics. And I can tell you're really feeling it on a deep level.
Okay, but so yeah, just waking up feeling comfortable in my body and confident, and just, I feel like every person I communicate with in my life, I'm always hesitant because I feel like everyone sees me as angry and sees me as a slacker and lazy, and so I just think like the most I would get out of it is just my interactions with everybody around me, just feeling happiness from coming from them, coming from me, and just being happy like at all times, and just having it be like a pure full happiness, not like the little voice in my head's like forcing it upon myself and just like saying like it this is what it is, but actually truly feeling it like everywhere throughout my body, and I don't know, just all the time.
Yeah, that's an absolutely amazing thing you hit on about not forcing it and actually feeling it and getting to that point. And I know you started working out recently, and I feel like it's really like that mentally too. And there's all these mental exercises and this and that. So the brain is really like a muscle, and especially with deep-seated habits and everything, like not working out your whole life, and then you go for the first time and it's god awful. You just want to kill yourself, but you're feeling now the benefits after giving it a couple weeks, and you get excited about going,
right.
And you naturally kind of get high off of it, and you really feel the endorphins and everything from working out. And I think that's kind of how it is when you practice with your brain, but it's just so hard to start and to build up the stamina and to get to a point where it's happening naturally. So that's kind of what I'm hearing, and I think that's something that would definitely help you focus on, just getting some exercises down besides the voice in your head to contribute to the exercises that are going to lead to the natural blissfulness that you're seeking. Also, I hear that you're kind of you're giving yourself a role in life. You're giving yourself a story, which is another tool that I would like to use with you in the future that I think would really help you. But a little short tidbit, you're giving yourself a story of what you almost think and believe you are. What, because you said it yourself, you're very angry and, rude and this and that, which may be things you exude through your personality, but that doesn't mean that's who you are. That doesn't mean it has to be your story from this point on. Literally every moment after this exact one is completely new. You could do any one thing, and in 3 years, you could start playing piano right now, and in 3 years be an amazing pianist, when if you didn't do that right now, it would never happen. It's just white and black, actions versus non-actions, putting a force behind all of this built up emotion that you've kind of gained and haven't really done anything about. You're starting to, and I total kudos to that. And even taking these steps so young, amazing things can happen, but you're kind of giving yourself this role in this story of being an angry person, being a bully, this and that. And then, as you're saying with this, is everyone sees you as this person because you've kind of created this role for yourself. So you're always feeling kind of just bashful, embarrassed, kind of just down on yourself, not really interactive with people that you normally would be because you feel like they view you in a certain way. So one thing I want you to think about staying mindful about is letting the role fade away. Just pretend like you have no story, because everything in the past is in the past. Whether other people want to realize that or not, that's the fact of it. That's the truth, and you know that. And dissolving your role, dissolving your story, and just really focus on creating your new story. And imagine everyone as, they don't know you. They don't know your role. Don't assume that they just, that's another assumption, just assuming that they see you as a negative, lazy, this and that person. Let that role dissolve and be your own role. And in time, whenever it's meant to happen, but it doesn't even concern you, it'll just focusing on yourself, and in time it will happen if you create the role that you want to be, if you create the story that you want to be in, and the life that you want to have. And everything else will fall into place, but that's of no concern to you anyways. Of course, that those relationships and the better interactions you have with your dad and this and that will contribute to your story that you're creating. But for now, the fundamentals of the story, you've got a blank book and you're writing it alone, and you have all the power in the world to create whatever role you want, and not assuming that the other characters in your story have any assumptions about you will just be such an ultimate goal in creating your story. Because like you said, that's a huge burden to feel all the time. You're not even allowing yourself to be who you want to be, because first of all, you have your own assumptions about yourself and how you feel about yourself, and then you think everyone else feels that way too. So it's just a double whammy of negative, tendencies to keep you on this path, and that's going to keep you there. And what you really need to do is break out of that. So that's one thing to be mindful of. I think that's a big thing for this category. And I think that the true pure happiness is going to happen with that. So there's going to be the mental exercises, adopting this agreement, and then also creating your own role and not allowing yourself to feel like you're already playing a role that has been decided by your past actions or by people in your life assuming that. So do you agree with that notion?
Yeah.
Do you understand that?
Yeah.
How does that feel, that kind of just statement, that realization? How does that feel to you?
It makes me feel good, because I just feel like specifically in the past week, I've been like really, really hard on myself, just things I even did a week ago or a month ago or the day before, and I just keep sitting in the past and just getting so angry of what I did before. And so I like the sound of just making a whole fresh new start and just starting new book, and it's all on me, and I get to write it, and it feels good.
That's awesome. And really allow yourself, because you're allowed, this is your life. You're allowed to feel whichever way you want. Don't feel like you have to feel like you're an angry, negative person because everyone already feels that way about you. You're allowed not to be hard on yourself. You don't have to punish yourself because you think that you should have to, because that's going to lead to more suffering, more of the same patterns, and it's going to keep you weak and it's going to keep you down. So allowing yourself to just let those go, let all those feelings go. Maybe in the future when you're at a certain place, you can make amends with those people. You can do things to prove your differences, but right now it's about you, and nothing's going to change if you're feeling guilt and feeling like you're stuck in a role that people have already defined for you or you've defined for yourself.
Right.
Allow yourself to forgive yourself. Allow yourself to not, marinate in those negative emotions. Allow yourself to be free from that and work on improving yourself in the future. So there's one thing. And then one more thing I just want to hit on this before we move on is, you said just everything's really hard for you. You're in a really sluggish state, pushing yourself to do anything. I know that's getting better because you started working out a lot, and that's awesome. That takes a lot of commitment and motivation. But surrounding the topic of motivation and always doing your best, why are you lacking the motivation in these points of your life? What is, really think deep within yourself, because and why is there a lack of motivation? Is there not enough satisfaction from the output of energy? Is it you don't believe in yourself enough? What is this lack of motivation really feeding from, do you feel like?
I mean, I would just say, kind of to go back with my mom, when I started, making bad decisions because of the way she was making me feel. The main thing that I started getting lazy at, which was like took up a huge part of everyone's time, was school. I just started giving up, and I didn't do my work. And then I literally eventually just didn't care. It got to the point where I dropped out. I didn't care so much. And before that, elementary school, I was top student. Like, Dad was stoked on every assignment I had. I did well on everything. I was known for, my reading, my writing. That was what I did. That was what I was great at. And then I just stopped caring. I saw how cruel, my own mother could be, and I was just like, what's the point? Like, why am I doing anything? Like, why do I care? Like, my own mom doesn't care. Like, why should I care about anything? And I just slowly gave up. And then, dropping out was like 2 years ago now. So that was kind of like my breaking point, my realization. And that was kind of when I entered, I guess people call it the real world, like working and kind of surviving on my own. I didn't have any parents, and I, was buying all my own things. And so then after all that happened, and I kind of did my own thing, and I came back home, I almost went through this sort of depression of how my life panned out, how fast it went by, and then how, how I don't want to say how badly I did, but I didn't do anything really. I was just lazy, and there's not one thing I can say that I accomplished. I really have nothing to show for those years of my life at all. So
thank you for sharing that. That's a really powerful statement. And what I'm hearing is that you're saying, you gave up on a lot of things and you let some things get the better of you, which is not your fault, and you're allowed to feel like it's not your fault. And instead of, I feel like you're kind of focusing more on what you didn't accomplish, what you gave up, what you lost. And yes, those might be really real things, but like the story you're going to be writing for yourself, those could all lead to amazing things. Those could all lead to amazing lessons. They don't necessarily have to be in this huge full negative box you've created. You can put them in a neutral zone where they're not sucking this negative energy for you, and maybe in the future you can take them out of this neutral zone and put them into a positive zone where you can actually use it to help you make better decisions. You can use it to help other people. Do you kind of get the connection with that?
Yeah, I do. And those thoughts have obviously come out at some point. Like, I feel like I have a lot of this positive energy inside of me, and I want it all to come out. But again, I've had all these years and years of being so angry, it ends up overpowering it. And so I look back at everything as negative. But deep down, I do believe and think that, and I want that to be how I completely feel about everything all the time.
But, and since it's such a on the line kind of thing, crossing between negative and neutral, between not thinking about it and thinking about it negatively, which is where you're kind of at. So I think if you just don't focus on dropping out, don't focus on, time you feel like you may have wasted, don't focus on any of those. Don't think about the losses. Just really start trying to mentally practice focusing on everything you could create, because none of that really matters now. You can't do anything about those times, but you have complete control of these times. And not focusing on, if you focus on, oh, well, I already messed up this bad, and you've seen this firsthand with other people I know, like when we talked about your mom in depth last time, when you focus on everything you've done wrong, everything you've done negative, it's going to lead to more of the same, and I think you know that more than a lot of people do.
Yeah.
So really letting go of that feeling of defeat already, because the truth is you're so young, you have so much time, and even at any age, but you especially have, so much potential to build up this motivation yourself. So that's another thing that we could focus on. And then taking things personally. So if this was out of 10, how would your life look? What would be different? We focused on your struggles with your mom, your jobs and your bosses, and your friendships seemed good in this. So maybe focusing on your job, not taking things personally. Do you think that would really benefit you in being able to hold a job? And what would that look like in your life if that was out of 10, if you didn't take anything personally and just let people, whatever they stay in their own bubble and not come out towards you?
I feel like it would almost be just always taking a breath of fresh air, just and it goes back to confidence, just feeling so good about yourself, wow, I mean, that person can say and think whatever, but I feel 100%, and I'm happy. I'm in my own little world, and they're doing what they're doing, and like even maybe thinking, wow, maybe I can help them. Maybe I can make it easier and better for them because I'm so happy myself, and I feel so great, and I want to share that. I want them to feel that too. I don't want them to spread the negativity or continue to, make it harder for themselves as the days go by. And just have that confidence and just be like, almost like, heck yeah, like, come at me, or like, try, like, like, no one can do anything, like, and just feeling like on top of the world all the time.
Yeah, I think you hit it right on there, because that's absolutely so fundamental. Not focusing on anyone else's path. They're doing their journey. That's not of your concern. Your paths may cross, but so that was a huge thing. Being completely confident in what you're doing, where you're at in your journey, taking everything as a lesson, even in the negative circumstances. So here we're kind of tying these in, all these agreements in your life. So you can have an overview, but then I want to have an established specific for you to work on, because I'm kind of trying to get you away from working on everything all the time and start working on brackets of things to build up to it. But just so we have an overview that kind of flows from always doing your best, not living in the role that you think is assigned to you. So creating your new role, which also ties into this, the taking things personally, the confidence, being happy where you are, know that you're where you need to be, and that you can make any situation a fundamental situation for you. You can make a bad job an amazing learning experience. You can, and then the other thing you hit on with taking things personally, you can use your own happiness and energy to kind of neutralize any other negative energy, and even create more positive energy for maybe other coworkers that are getting hit by the same boss. Or maybe, the same boss will neutralize a little bit because of your happiness, and maybe they're just in a pattern of feeding off of spreading their negativity and seeing that rise up in other people, and you not showing that will kind of either make them back off, maybe it'll make them more mad, who knows, but you need to do what's right for you. And for most of the situation, giving that extra happiness is going to create a more positive situation. And just knowing if you need to remove yourself from the situation, then you can find another job. But also realizing that nobody's going to be perfect. There are going to be these circumstances, so not just giving up right away, still applying yourself 100% and giving yourself 100% positivity at work. And just really, like we talked about that experiment in your next job, just really seeing the difference. Even if you don't necessarily think you can do it or agree with it, which I think you do, but just a week, give yourself a week, a really tangible, obtainable amount of time to just, act like if you're not this person yet, you haven't worked out your brain enough, you're not, you are forcing it a little bit, you are relying on this voice in your head that you're feeding more and more to bring you to that state. But seeing how being in that state in the working environment will really change the environment, and how that'll in turn affect you, and it's kind of just like a cycle. You're putting out this energy, and then you're getting more and putting out, and then it can just kind of keep building until it's this blissful kind of positive state that you can completely create. So there's a tie between always doing your best, taking things personally. So now we're going to don't make assumptions. So what's a 10 in that department? So mostly we focused on your long distance with the boyfriend. So I'm guessing that's where we're going to focus. And we talked about how you're avoiding saying things in this time because you've had a lot of problems with this. So avoiding thinking things. So I'm going to ask you what would be a 10 in this situation, but first I'm going to suggest one step in this that would, I think, be beneficial and help you bring it to a 10 or a much higher rating anyways, would be before replying to anyone, especially via text. You guys are texting a lot. When you're angry and in that state, or even overly happy and might say something, anytime you feel like you're going to say what you don't mean, and you can sense that. And I know when you're in a rage, you just almost can't control yourself sometimes, but really work on this if you can commit to this. Every time you're going to text back, if you're overly happy or sad, or anytime you think, you're not going to say what you mean, whether it's in person, to a family member, to your boyfriend, any circumstance, take 10, 20 seconds. If you're really livid, maybe more time. Squeeze this point here in your hand, and then just sit and take 20 deep breaths like we did earlier. And I'll give you a sample of this Breathe essential oil, which will be really amazing for this. Just take a little bit under your nose, behind your ears here. Squeeze this point in your hand and take 20 deep breaths and just let all the thoughts trickle away on the body of water. You can imagine yourself, I always imagine kind of a river with drops of water, and those thoughts just kind of expand out. Any visualization that helps you get in that zone and really come back to center, come back to your right mind, and the anger will subside greatly, and you will definitely improve the way that you're talking to people. By this exercise, you're going to be improving the way that you think. It's because instead of reflecting badly on it so much right off the bat, you're allowing yourself to really neutralize and get into a state of your right mind, a state of, knowing that this is wrong, knowing that you, in hindsight, you will not have wanted to say any of those things. So I think that's going to be an amazing exercise for you for this agreement in your life. And just giving yourself that 20 seconds, that 20 deep breaths, or whatever you need to do, holding this acupoint on your hand and just breathing it out. And then see how, we'll talk again, I'll check up with you, but do this for the next week and see how that affects your relationships with people. See how that affects the conversations you're having with them and the outcomes of that. So do you think you can commit to that exercise so far?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's going to be 20 deep breaths, the use of the essential oil, the acupoint, meditation. The longer the better, but even if you can commit to just 20 breaths, like a minute, and just a little bit of visualization or just counting your breaths or any kind of neutralizing action, all of those, the oil and the acupoint will help a lot. So that's one commitment that I would love for you to make, and it sounds like you're gung-ho on that. So any ideas that you have about not making assumptions? What would be you at your best in that agreement of your life? If you didn't make any assumptions, what would that look like with your relationship? How do you think that would affect it?
Well, I mean, I think it would obviously just be perfect, because I mean, like, I truly believe my boyfriend and I are like full-on soulmates, but the only problems we have are literally problems I create. So I don't know, it would just be beautiful. It would be awesome. And I think also another thing to kind of like correlate with that is that, like, I feel like I don't fully love myself, and so I don't trust that he loves me. And so it's just like the trust, just wanting to feel and believe that he trusts and loves me. Because it's like, at times I truly do. I truly, honestly do. Like, I feel it with all my might, but then I get to that point where I'm just like, why does he love me? Like, I start to feel so bad about myself, and so then, yeah, I think that's just something that, like, I always snap back to, and it's like, that's what leads me to just getting so insecure. And so just that, like, being gone would just be awesome, and just feeling that entire love just back and forth to each other, just loving each other like so much, and just knowing it and it just being there and not having to question it or.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great topic to hit on, is your own self-love interacting with assumptions you make about other people, because that is a well-known thing, is all the judgments you protrude on other people are insecurities you have about yourself. And that's what it really comes all down to, is, right, how you talked about your confidence, being happy where you are, being confident with writing your story, not letting anything penetrate you. That's also going to tie into now you're not making assumptions. You're so happy and confident. This is your ideal. This is your out of 10 on all of these agreements. You're so happy and confident with yourself. You're so trusting in the universe that things are going to work out, that if you do your best and if you are confident and happy where you are, things are going to work out how they're supposed to be. And how could they not? If you're putting that much positivity into the world, you're going to be getting it back. I mean, besides the spirituality thing of it, it's just mathematics, basically. Right. It's just going to happen. So having this confidence, this happiness, and now another word for it, this self-love, which is a really powerful notion to wrap your head around. These are all going to tie in together, and now with this not making assumptions, loving yourself so much, and just allowing yourself to be loved. And another thing that is just going to be so detrimental to any of these agreements, any other aspect in your life, is the fear aspect. How much do you fear, you fear losing a person, you fear not being loved enough, and this stems off from life. You're a kid and you don't get the toy you want, or this parent spends more time with this kid, you think, and you're just fearful of not having enough love, you're fearful of not being chosen. That's how all these, superficial, realities we've come to know so well with the media and looking this way or that way. We're so fearful that if we're not exactly how we think we're supposed to be, if we're not exactly in the role that we think we're supposed to be in, then it just causes extreme depression, extreme anxiety, extreme lack of motivation, all these things that you've been experiencing that are trickling into all these aspects of your life and taking you down. It's all starting with the seed of these real truths, these truths of the confidence and self-love, and then the truth of, these actual agreements, and then applying that self-love and confidence to all of them. So I think this is just going really well. Are you kind of seeing the tie-in through all of these aspects into these agreements? Okay, so the last one, being impeccable with your word. Saying things that you mean, which also I think ties into this exercise that you've committed to about the taking 20 deep breaths before replying to anyone. I think that's going to help you greatly with being impeccable with your word and not making assumptions. So what else being impeccable with your word? You said things that you've said here, you're mean, angry, kind of a bully. You can't really control your mouth. You don't really know how to communicate with your father. So what are some things that you feel like you could do to bring up your level of the impeccability of your word? What would that look like in your life? How would that feel? And what could you do to make that a reality?
Well, obviously, I think the practice you brought up is super important. Just taking the meditation and the time away from how I feel in that moment, to practice that. I don't need to get angry over everything. I need to just have a calmness. And so, and this is something I think about every day. I wake up every day like, this is gonna be the day where I don't mess up, and I don't I'm happy with the things I'm saying, and I can just communicate normally and just interact with everybody without having an issue or them being like offended or almost scared. So I don't know, it would look like just being happy all the time and just almost like glowing and just having, because I even feel like my own dad is scared to talk to me. He just doesn't know what to say. He thinks he's going to offend me or scare me or make me cry, and just not having that, I can feel that. I can feel that with everybody I talk to, and just having that feeling gone and just being like completely comfortable with every situation I'm in. I'm just being happy, and it just always being good. I don't know.
No, that was an amazing reflection. I love that. So being impeccable with your word, extremely important, and it sounds like you've already felt some of the downfalls with situations when you've not been impeccable with your word. Maybe it's affected things with your father, and that kind of sounds like where it's the heaviest in this category. But also with everyone, you're saying they're just kind of scared to approach you, scared to talk with you. So being impeccable with your word, I think really tying in the exercise I gave you before with the not making assumptions, doing the oil, the acupoint, and the 20 deep breaths is going to help you immensely with both of these categories. And then also, if you feel like committing to it, maybe doing one thing a week to kind of nurture any miscommunications or anything that has happened with your dad. Nurture building a new communicative relationship with him. So is there anything you can think of that you could do maybe once or a few times a week, depending on what it is, that is going to help nurture your father trust what you say and be able to talk with you more? Maybe it's even going to him once a week and instigating a a positive 5-minute conversation about something random or anything like that that you feel like you could commit to trying in the next couple weeks that you think would help out this situation and kind of mend any imperfections?
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, because even me and him had like this very deep talk. It was several months ago now, but one of the main points was that he wanted me to come to him when I had anything positive that I had either completed or I wanted to complete, and that's something that I haven't taken action in at all. I think almost because I've just been kind of figuring out what exactly I'm doing, and I don't really have anything to tell him, which scares me even more because I want to impress him almost. I want to make him happy, and I want to show him, because I messed up so hard those past years, as we talked about, that I want to show him that, yeah, I made mistakes, but that doesn't affect my future. That doesn't affect my future, and I can do whatever I want to do and set my mind to. So, I mean, that is something it's always in my head, and I always try to, think of something I could go down and tell him, but I've just yet to figure out exactly what that is. But I think that is something I do need to create and make happen with him. I need to start creating things that I want to accomplish in my life, and I need to communicate with him about it. So, because that's the biggest thing, he just wants to see me do well, and he wants me to do things and accomplish things and create my life, and for it to be a good life. So, I mean, it's pretty simple, and I know I can do it. So, yeah, I mean, that's
Definitely.
really it. And even another thing is just helping him with the backyard and the garage when he has his like Saturday off or Sunday off or whatever, just spending like time with him, just helping him with things that, he can't really do anymore. Like, that's going to show so much.
Yeah, I think that's a huge one.
Yeah.
I think that would mean a lot to him and show him a lot about your seriousness and your commitment to, working on the relationship. Okay, so we've done a really thorough, really awesome overview. I just want to thank you so much for being so honest and just really feeling this on a really deep level. And I'm sure that is just going to benefit you 100 times more. How are you feeling about it? Are you feeling like everything hit you really deep?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it was intense. I mean, I haven't really admitted this to anybody. I mean, it's a dark truth that I know everybody has and holds, but it's scary to, let it out and realize it.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing to say it out loud, and it's amazing what something as simple as, because you realize things in your head and you kind of keep them tucked away in your brain, but just saying it out loud and realizing it and coming to terms with it is really powerful.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. You just did such a great job, and I think we've made a lot of progress, and even just leaving it here would benefit you greatly. Just going through this organized thought process and just everything you and I have talked about is going to help you greatly. But to give you kind of a really organized, simplified thing to take away, we're just going to organize some broad goals that we've kind of gained from this exercise and this session, and narrow it down to some manageable things that you can focus on in the near future and start exercising and working on, and then maybe another category of things that we can work on next time and refine those down. So through these general goals that I thought were the most powerful in the session, from what I heard from you, is releasing your role. So I've worded that how I thought it would be best. Is there any other way you want to call that? So do you understand the magnitude of that, releasing the role? So that is branching off of allowing yourself to forgive yourself and not necessarily feeling that the role that you think you've created for yourself and the role that you think other people put you in is your role, because it's not. You can release your role, I'm writing, and write your new story. So that goal represents that aspect, and this is with this branched off our conversation from always doing your best and that agreement. So with releasing your role and writing your new story, I think that's going to add so much to your motivation and your ability to do your best, and not feeling that, should I do my best when everyone already thinks this way about me, or why do my best when I've already messed up so much. So releasing that role and writing your new story. So that's this first goal that we have from always doing your best. The next agreement we have taking things personally. So this is another huge, huge goal, is working on your confidence and self-love. So these are just, obviously little mental brackets to work on, nothing too physical yet. So just mindful about releasing your role, writing your new story, mindful about building your confidence and your self-love. And this is derived from not taking things personally. So not letting things, that just what it says, not taking things personally, being confident about where you are at that given time and place in your life, and letting everything else that doesn't serve you, fade away, and just focusing on your path, your journey, being happy with what you're doing and not dwelling on what you haven't done or time you've wasted, really just focusing on the confidence and the self-love. And that's going to help you so much with taking things personally, letting things penetrate you, because you may not have that confidence shield and you may not have that self-love. And then also with not making assumptions, where we're going into next, the confidence and self-love is going to help you immensely, especially with a long-distance relationship. Having that confidence and self-love is going to be huge in allowing you to not make assumptions and having that fear overwhelm you about, is he going to leave me? Is he doing this and that? Because that is literally a poison that you're injecting into a relationship that could otherwise flourish. And I know you realize that, and I know you know the importance in that. So those are the two goals. And then we have a couple actions here, which is the this is an anytime thing, but especially I want you to dedicate yourself to doing this in the situations when you're having an outburst, when you're livid, when you're feeling, because you can feel it in your body, when you have that tension, when you know that you're in a state of mind when you would say things to people that you don't mean, and that you don't want to say, and that is, evil-esque, right. Is that it's not something you want to say. So the at least 20 deep breaths while meditating, which, don't put too much, some people get intimidated by meditating, even just simply imagining, and thoughts are going to trickle in, and then I like it envisioning water because I let them literally roll away on the water. So just any kind of thought process, even just imagining the numbers as you're counting your breath, a tranquil spot by the water, that's what I usually like to use, something to focus on, because it's hard to focus on nothing at all. So just focusing on one positive thing, or just kind of a neutral, safe place. Take the 20 deep breaths with the meditation and counting. I'm going to give you some of the Breathe essential oil, and that's really great to take a big breath of and then put on your templates, or even the bottom of your feet is great. And then holding your acupoint that I showed you as well. So realistically, with what I'm hearing about how much you struggle with this is something you're going to be doing every day for certain, and then also throughout the day, maybe even starting 10 times a day. Just really utilize this exercise, because this is what we're talking about. That's going to be that tangible exercise that's going to start overcoming the forceful voice and becoming a natural state of being. Right. You're going to, it's like in teaching tricks, you're going to start, if you do things 10 times a day for even a week, you're going to definitely start be doing those things naturally. That's going to be a natural resource for you to use. If you stick with it and stay mindful, if you let the anger overwhelm you, because the anger is a very loud, and this is a force that has been building up your whole life. This is a very powerful demon within you. And doing these little exercises is like nothing. It's like throwing a couple pieces of ice at a fire. You have to really control yourself at first, like, we talked about, because that's a really amazing realization, because it is a forced kind of happiness over just a naturally felt happiness, which can almost be a depressing notion. But knowing that this horrible workout, working out for the first time in your life, being 400 pounds, imagine how hard that is and how much it feels like it's not doing anything. But building up the stamina and these patterns and these rituals will make it this natural bliss that you're seeking. in the long run if you stick with it. So you can commit to doing that exercise in this next week. So yeah, this is all about this next week, and then we're going to meet again at the end of next week and talk about how this went for you. So these are kind of mental goals, and then we have your physical commitment here. Put a C there, and then the next physical commitment, if you are willing to, I think that taking time once or twice a week, whatever you feel, and doing something with and for your dad that is going to nurture that communication and being impeccable with your words, and specifically you guys being able to communicate back and forth and share things. So I'm going to say father nurturing, because I'm going to start working on really nurturing that relationship. And just, with this, even trickling throughout the week, just being more communicative in general, just little things, just start, don't say anything. Don't say, hey, I'm going to start doing this once a week, or I'm going to, let him really feel your efforts naturally, just start becoming more communicative with him. And then if you do feel, because you mentioned you kind of feel fearful in those circumstances, not completely comfortable with communication. So allowing, again, coming back to that role, because you feel like he feels a certain way about you, and maybe he does or doesn't, but that doesn't concern you, and that is not serving your path right now. That is not going to help you build your confidence. That's not going to help you become the person that he wants you to be and that you want you to be. So dissolving that role completely, just really, and believing, and it's going to be hard because of course you're going to feel that way a little bit, but really working on dissolving it completely at most of the times, and it might weave in and out of effectiveness, but really focusing on that. And then once or twice a week, nurture that relationship. Don't feel like you're in a role, and then see how that affects the differences. See how that affects how you talk to him, and then how he talks to you back, not feeling like you're in that role. I think that's going to be a huge difference. And then doing that one thing for him a week, that one chore or interactive activity or something that's going to build that trust, build that communication, and that impeccability in your words. So how do you feel about those two commitments for this week?
I feel good. I'm excited.
You think that's going to make a huge change?
Yeah.
Because I don't want you to get overwhelmed, because this is a very specific, broken down goal. But then also with these two goals that were the mental one, which is releasing your role, writing your new story, building your confidence and self-love. So that one I wanted to turn, if you wish to, into a mantra that is just kind of like your personal little prayer. And you can say it in the morning and at night. I think it's great if people have it hanging up on the wall or fridge, and they can just kind of see it throughout their days and be reminded of, it just kind of takes you back of what you're trying to be mindful of, what you're working on this week, what you really need to focus on. And it just kind of helps, with that forceful, it's one thing to try and be mindful and forceful about a voice in your head, but it can be overwhelmed by all those demons. So being reminded of it even more is just a little bit, takes off some of the effort and makes it a little bit more effective. So to turn this into one mantra, let's have you kind of write it with me. So you're releasing your role, writing a new story, and you're building confidence and self-love. So basically we're just turning that into a sentence. So you're saying, I, Emily. And then use affirmative language, like not I will try. That be confident in your ability to do this, because you know that you can do this. So like, I, Emily, will release my existing role, and then you can continue from there.
Release my existing role, and
you could say something about writing your new story or creating a new path, or however you resonate with that.
Release my role and begin to write my new story.
I'm gonna put. And then incorporate that. So however you feel like that would resonate with you the best. How do you want to hear that every day?
And I will focus and build on. Wait, does that make sense? To build up or build on my confidence and self-love.
Yeah, that's fine. However you want. Totally all for you. And this is just going to be your personal reminder of this session and everything that we communicated in this session and kind of realizations and aha moments you may have had. So this is just a really simple mantra. It's not too much to commit to. Just hang it up, write it somewhere, have it somewhere in your purse or something that you're going to remember all the time. And then also we're going to assign this stone I have for you, and we're going to connect it to, I want to connect it to this mantra, definitely, but also to your 20 deep breaths before acting upon anything or when you're feeling negative at all. You can have this in your palm as well, and keep this around your room, your purse, and it's just going to pop up a lot and remind you, because your mantra will be around in your house, but I like keeping little reminder stones in my purse or something. And then when you're looking through your purse when you're not necessarily thinking about it, maybe you're in a bad mood and you see it right at the right moment. They always seem to pop up at the right moment. And then you're like, wow, I need to step back, remember what I'm doing, take 20 breaths, because, I don't need to be feeling any of these emotions. I'm allowed to forgive myself and to move on and to build up from here. So we have your mantra, we have the reminder stone. I will get you your oil, and you have your physical goals here that you're going to work on that you're feeling really good about, and then we've turned the other goals into your mantra. So I think that's a really great place to leave this session. I think we made a ton of progress. Yeah, I'm feeling really good with it. How did you feel about this session?
I felt good. It was sad, but it was good.
Yeah, and I mean, that's great. I mean, if it hits that deep, that's really amazing, and that's, I think, made a really big impact on you, and I could tell how much you were giving to this session. I just want to thank you again for giving that much to the session and taking it so seriously and getting so much out of it. I'm just really proud of you. You did a really great job. And I know it ran really long, but I think it was a great session. I'm glad you had the time to spend on it. So this copy is for you. And then you can actually also keep these notes in your chart if you want. And then, I know you have the mantra day and night and everything, but every once in a while, maybe look at the notes from this session just to kind of remind yourself of the bullet points we hit and the details, that you may not be thinking of all the time. And then I think we should definitely work with this tool again and focus on some more specific goals that you can work on, just so you're not getting overwhelmed, starting small, and then we can work into some of the other brackets more. And then also doing the story tool, I think, would be great for you, and like learning how to release your old story and building your new story. So I just think that went awesome, and thank you so much for meeting with me. Yeah, of course.
I had a great time.
Yeah, me too.